This is a video manual for the CSI effect zone of the Slick EQ GE edition and the VST of that plugin. This will work on Mac and PC. It's for the MCU and Xtouch, but it will probably work on any 8-channel controller. Just drop the file in the effect zones folder. Now add the VST plugin. I keep various plugins on toolbars. This is the EQ toolbar. There's the Slick EQ. Pressing the plugin button takes you to the effect zone, and you can see that Slick is the only plugin on there. Pressing the rotary directly under the plugin will open the plugin as a floating window. They always seem to open on the left-hand side of the screen. Pressing the rotary again brings it to the center of the screen. I'll include the text in the description that you need to copy and paste into your effect zone to make it work like this. I set all of my EQs out the same way. Input would be on channel 1. There is no input on this plugin, so it's calibration, and you can step through that with the select button. Quality is on channel 4, full and economical. Just pressing select will switch between the two, or you can run the fader. Mix on 6, on and off, full on or off, and your fader can select between. And then the output of the plugin always on channel 8, and select will step through, always including 0, usually 6 dB above and 6 dB below, but it means you can reset to 0 pretty easily. And finally, the mute button on channel 8 switches the auto gain on and off. Let's have a look at the modifiers. There are no lights on the modifiers on the MCU, so within the effect zone I've programmed Control to light the marker light, Alt to light the nudge light, Option to light the drop light, and Shift to light the zoom light, and you can use those buttons instead if you want to. Shift accesses the rotaries and the displays for them, and on channel 1 you've got your input. You can go through that with your rotary or step through that with select. Record arm 2 is on off for the display, and the scale you can adjust with the rotary. You can also step through the scale with the select button. Anytime there's a stepped parameter on a rotary or a fader, select is usually programmed to go through those steps. And finally on channel 8 you've got saturation type, which you can select or rotate through. And the on-off is the record arm button. Any on-offs are always on the record arms. Okay, I'm just going to need to close that display so you can see what's going on. It's not hidden behind the other camera. The same layout for all of my EQs. Control is the volume on the faders. Add Shift to that is the frequency on the rotaries. Add Option to that is the Q on the rotaries. These can be momentary buttons as well. You hold them down a bit longer and release them. Control modifier on its own. You've got the bass, middle and treble volume. In the middle there's the tilt volume. Add Shift. On channel 1 and on channel 7 you've got the high pass and low pass. All the frequencies on the relative channels there. And for Qs, yeah, you can crank the rotaries round, or you can just use the select, as there is only 2 shapes for each of those. You can turn all of the frequencies on and off with the record arm buttons. And you can do that whichever modifier you're using. So that was under Q. Now we're on frequency. And that'll do the same when you're on volume. Although volume's obsolete for high pass and low pass, the on-offs will still work for them. And that's my layout for the CSI effect zone for Slick EQ. More complex stereo left-right or mid-side EQs, this would be the mid or left, the Control, Shift and Option. And right or side would be Alt, Shift and Option. And that's the idea I've been using for the layout for the V2 and the V3 and various other stereo or mid-side EQs. I stick to just programming one bypass even if the plugin's got one, and that's Reaper's bypass. And I use the flip button, so when the flip button's red you know the plugin's bypassed. Kind of catches your eye. Okay, I hope you find this really useful. Click like, click the link, download it, install it, and see if you can make some use of it. I'll see you in the next one.